Welcome friends to another r/EntitledParents video. Today we've got a story of a crazy entitled mother thinking they can hold somebody else's baby. But first, a story from Specialist Force. My sister and her husband are expecting, her mother-in-law is trying to call the shots. This story is just the latest in a long list of crappy things her mother-in-law has done. My sister has very reasonably decided that she doesn't want visitors for the first 2 weeks after the birth to bond with the baby and recover from the whole giving birth thing, especially as she's a high-risk pregnancy. Her mother-in-law assumed she was exempt from that rule and is now not talking to them, potentially missing out on a relationship with her own son and granddaughter. Talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. Do you guys think if a relative acts like this where they feel slighted over something where they have no right to feel slighted and they decide, oh, well, I'm not talking to you until so-and-so, do you believe the right thing to do is to just not respond at all and just leave it up to them to see when they want to reach back out again? Or considering it is family, is it worth trying to hash it out somehow? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Our next story is from Candenza Moon. Entitled in-laws want to say in our baby's last name and our partner registration date. My girlfriend and I, both women, are expecting a baby. In order to get the paperwork in order and make it official, we decided to book an appointment at the city hall and register our partnership. Basically the same as marriage in our country. This is free on Wednesday mornings and are allowed 6 guests. My girlfriend called her parents to invite them to the ceremony. Right away, without missing a beat, they started spouting obstacles. They say the date is inconvenient, that they have other things to do, and where is it? Oh my god, I don't know how to get there. Then her father asks about the last name we're choosing. We plan to both take on both of our last names, which we'd already explained. He then asks about the baby's last name. We want the baby to share a last name with us, but in our country, there's no legislation for this yet, but they've been working on it and it should be an option soon. This means we have to choose a temporary last name until we can change it. And since my girlfriend's carrying the baby and has her DNA, we decided on my last name. Her father said he found this strange because it was her baby. My girlfriend said that she did not accept this, that the baby is mine as well, and if he didn't accept this, she was done talking. She then hung up. She wrote her mother that the date was off, which she interpreted as, "Oh, you changed the date for us, that was a great idea." My girlfriend explained that no, the date still stood, but she was hurt by her father's comments, and if that's their stance, we'd celebrate without them. Enter full-blown victim mode from mother. We should have discussed our date with them, and your father's a man, of course he wants his last name passed on. Be more understanding, and I see how it is. Apparently our partnership date and baby last name are a democratic decision. The incident, by the way, follows a gem of a comment from her mother. "We're still getting to know you." Why? I've been dating your daughter for 5.5 years now. Shouldn't you know me by now? They made it obviously clear that they're not happy with their daughter's partner choice. After all this, I decided to keep my own name rather than taking on the name of such a narrow-minded family, and girlfriend is seriously considering taking on my name just to spite her parents. As somebody with absolutely no say in this whatsoever, I just hope whatever they settle on, they find happiness in it, and I hope they just have a happy family together. This next story is from PerpMonk16. Entitled mother thinks she has the right to hold my baby. I'm a first-time mom, and now that my baby's 4 months old, I felt comfortable starting to go around family and friends. We had a family reunion this past weekend, and I was excited to see my family that I haven't seen in a year. Before the trip, I made sure to ask around who was vaccinated and who was not, so I would know who I would be comfortable with my baby around. Those that weren't vaccinated, I just had my husband take the baby and I socialized with while social distancing. No biggie. Me is me. Entitled mother is my cousin, a cousin I don't talk to. A cousin that has physically harmed me just because I'm younger than her. A cousin that's irresponsible and has 5 kids that she lost custody of for abuse and neglect. But they're so misbehaved, the person that took custody of them couldn't handle them. So the kids just float around since my cousin refuses to parent or discipline them. My dad described it as a baby raising 5 babies. It's a sad situation, but it doesn't excuse her abusing and neglecting them. So enter entitled mother. Entitled mother says, "Let me hold your baby." I say, "What?" She says, "Let me hold your baby, I want to hold him." Me laughing nervously said, No, thank you." She says, "No, let me hold him. Give him here." She reaches out and tries to touch my son. I lean away and block her with my shoulder. I say, "No, I don't want you to hold him. People keep asking me," and I said no. She says, "I let you hold mine when they were babies. You have to let me hold yours." Side note, she didn't let me hold her baby. She put them on my lap and left the house and didn't come back. I had to call my dad to find her parents to come take the baby because I had no idea what to do. I was like 15. I say, "I don't want you to hold him." The entitled mother goes to my husband and says, "Can I hold your baby?" Me, pissed because I already said no. Husband says, "Are you vaccinated?" Entitled mother says, "Yes. No, I don't believe in the corona. It's a man-made disease. I don't know anyone that's gotten it. Her mom has had it 3 times and was sitting next to us," and basically went on a long rant. Husband says, "Then no, you can't hold the baby." I thought that was the end, but then I woke up the next morning to a bunch of sent and unsent Facebook messages from entitled mother. And then she sent me more today. A baby is a person, not a toy to play with. Sigh. I just think good on OP for not giving in to the pressure. With somebody with so little manners and so little care of what other people feel, it's probably pretty easy to give in to somebody like that who's like, "No, just let me hold him, come on." But considering OP's the mother of this child, it doesn't surprise me that OP's making sure that baby's taken well care of. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Our next story is from Stargazer728, entitled "Dad Gets His Son Bitten by a Venomous Snake." This past weekend, I decided that it would be a good idea to hit up some biking trails at the local nature preserve. I packed up my trail bike early in the morning to go riding, since the morning was the coolest the temperatures were going to be for that day. A thing to note in Texas, we experience triple-digit heat in the summer, and because of this, snake encounters are much more frequent in parks and nature preserves. Most of the time, the snakes tend to avoid places where people frequent, even more so with bikers. However, there are some rare encounters. On to the story. I was riding through the trails, just enjoying the scenic ride. I was enjoying cool temperatures due to the forest overcast and the wonderful serenity of nature. I had soon reached a part of the trail that ran alongside a creek, and up ahead, I saw a park ranger holding a long stick and standing next to a plastic container. I also noticed that he was intensely focused on something on the side of the trail. As I approached, the park ranger saw me and quickly put his hand out, motioning me to stop. I immediately hit the brakes and got off my bike. Out of curiosity, I tilted my head to catch a glimpse of what the ranger was focused on. What I saw caused my eyes to grow wide. On the side of the trail was a very beautiful, but very venomous copperhead that was coiled up to strike. I quickly checked my surrounding area to see if there were any other snakes near me. Luckily for me, I didn't see any. I nervously watched as the ranger caught the copperhead using his stick, carefully placing it inside the container and slamming it shut. Me, breathing a sigh of relief, said, "Nice catch." The park ranger holding up the box said, "Thank you. We don't usually get copperheads on this part of the preserve. This little guy must have wandered here overnight." Enter the entitled parent. As I got closer to the park ranger to get a better look at the snake, I heard a voice coming from behind me. A kid about 12 years old and with a British accent was approaching with his dad, a tall and very husky fellow, and saw the ranger holding up the box with the still very pissed off copperhead inside. The entitled kid said, "Daddy, look, that man has a snake. It reminds me of the one I had back in England." The entitled dad says, "Pretty one, isn't it? Maybe we can take it home as your new pet snake." The entitled dad walked right up to the park ranger and said, "Excuse me, sir. Do you think by chance you could give me that snake so I can let my son keep it as a pet?" The park ranger gave the man a look that clearly had the expression of, "Are you serious right now?" The park ranger says, "I really don't think you want this snake as a pet." The entitled dad says, "Rubbish. I've had pet ball pythons for years back in my home country. This snake won't be any different." The park ranger says, "This is definitely not a ball python, nor a snake you should treat as one." The entitled dad says, "Just give me the snake." The entitled dad suddenly snatched the box away from the park ranger and pushed him back, causing him to stumble backwards and fall into the creek. I rushed to help up the park ranger, and as I was doing so, I saw the Darwin Award-worthy moment unfold. The entitled kid looking at the snake said, "Daddy, he's beautiful. Can I pet him before we take him home?" The entitled dad says sure, then opened the box containing the still pissed off copperhead, and entitled kid proceeded to reach inside. The snake wasted no time and immediately lashed out and bit entitled kid's hand. The entitled kid cried out in pain and started crying. The entitled dad threw the box on the ground, to which the snake quickly escaped into the bushes. I was very attentive to where the snake landed and slithered off to. While the entitled dad was checking on entitled kid, the park ranger called for a medical unit, and notably a police officer. The entitled dad seemed confused about the call. He said, "I don't think the medical call was necessary. It's just a minor snake bite." The park ranger says, "I don't think you understand, sir. That snake wasn't just like a harmless ball python. That snake was a copperhead. Bites from them are venomous." The entitled dad says, "Wait, so you're telling me that you guys just let venomous snakes just freely roam the park?" The park ranger says, "Well, sir, this area is part of the snake's natural habitat." He says, "Still, you guys should be doing something about that. People walk through here." The park ranger says, "That's exactly what I was doing until you took the snake from me, sir." The entitled dad looks at me and says, "Can you believe this rubbish?" I say, "Don't bring me into this, dude. After all, you did take the snake from the ranger." The entitled dad scoffs. A golf cart with a medic and what looked like a senior ranger arrived, and the medic immediately sat the kid down to look at the bite. The senior ranger walked over to us, and the entitled dad wasted no time complaining. He said, "You blokes ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Public park with dangerous snakes wandering about?" The senior ranger says, "Sir, this region is part of their natural habitat. While we work to keep them from public areas, you're still going to encounter them from time to time. But from what my coworker tells me, you took the snake from him and let your son try to pet it?" The entitled dad, visibly nervous, says, Yes. The senior ranger says, "Well, we have an ambulance to take your son to the hospital at the park entrance, and an officer that would like to have a word with you. I suggest you come with me." The entitled dad sheepishly got onto the cart with his son, and the four of them all left for the park entrance. I took the opportunity and finished up my bike ride, while keeping an eye out for any more snakes. When I got to the park entrance, I saw the senior ranger from earlier. I curiously asked him what happened after they got back to the park entrance. Apparently, the cop they called was waiting for entitled dad when they got there. The cop let him off with a warning, but not after giving him a stern butt-chewing about how he should have arrested him for child endangerment. So today I learned there's only 3 types of snakes in the UK. There is one venomous snake. I was gonna make some assumption that maybe they just don't exist at all out there. So maybe the dad just assumed pretty much all snakes were gonna be fairly okay. I don't know. I don't know about the dad and this kid, but if I saw any kind of snake, regardless of red and yellow, they could be glowing rainbow RGB colored, I still wouldn't go near them. Our next story is from Mitharu. "I'm sorry in advance, your daughter's going to lose her parents on her birthday. So July 3rd is our, both female, daughter's birthday, and she asked for fireworks. We obliged and got 2 reasonably sized packs from the Phantom. She was having a blast and jumping up and down, and a bunch of other children came up and congregated. In our neighborhood, the weekend is full of people doing this. And while she was too young to set them off, she ran the show and selected the next ones to go. Someone from the neighborhood came up initially complimenting her and us on our fireworks. The exchange went as such. The man says, "I have 2 daughters at home and I'm wondering if we can speed things up here. They've got to sleep. I'm not trying to be any trouble, but how much longer will you be?" I say, "Definitely not all night, don't worry. We'll probably be finished by 9:45, 10 at the latest," and we show how much we have left. He says, "Well, I need you to be done in 10 minutes. I say, "I'm so sorry, sir. I completely understand your situation. We'll definitely try and expedite the show. Although I can't speak to anyone else, there's people all over, as I'm sure you can hear, that are also doing this with. I'm sorry for all the distress I caused, and I'll do my best to move through the rest ASAP. It's our daughter's birthday, so we do want to get through all of them, but it won't be any longer than 30 minutes tops. I can't really get through the box in less than 30, and storing these long term can be dangerous." He says, "Well," to me, the trans partner, as he gets up in my face to spitting distance, "can you speed it up or do I need to call the police?" I say, "Sir, I'm willing to work with you here. I need you to step back and calm down a bit, and I'm sure we can work out an agreeable solution. What if we set up a few at once? But I need you to get out of my personal space, okay? I'd be happy to resolve it." He says, "What? You want me to social distance?" He takes a few steps back and then returns to my face. I say, "Sir, I'm just trying to work things out. I'm in psychology services and I think..." He says, "I don't care who you are." He says to my daughter, "I'm sorry in advance, your parents are going to jail on your birthday." I say, "Shannon, start recording." He walks off and says, "Fine, I'll give you 20 minutes. Then your little girl's gonna watch you get hauled." How much do you want to bet that even on July 3rd, if somebody calls and complains about a fireworks disturbance, the police are probably going to ignore it? It's one thing you're setting it off at 10 p.m. on some absolutely inconsequential day, but July 3rd, I think you got a little bit of an amnesty there. And our final story of the day is from Jay Sific. My lawyer uncle and my doctor aunt tried to violate my contract. I'm an 18-year-old guy, and I just moved to Utah in May of 2021 after living in a different state for 18 years, and had just finished my senior year of high school. I had never worked a full-time job, but I'd worked 3 part-time jobs in food service and retail. After moving to Utah, my uncle texted a group chat of all my aunts and uncles on my dad's side, plus my parents in July of 2021. One of their 2 live-in nannies was moving back to Brazil for a family emergency. They asked if any of the young adult nieces or nephews would want to come live with them in Connecticut and be a live-in nanny until just December of 2022. I didn't have a job at the time and was actively looking for one, so I told my mom, who asked if I would be interested, to let my aunt and uncle know that I would be willing to go. I didn't really know my aunt and uncle very well. I'd only really interacted with them at a big family gathering that we have every 4 years. So after 1.5 months of interviews and getting a contract signed, I packed the bare minimum of what I would need in a carry-on, personal items, my backpack, and 1 checked bag and flew to Connecticut. The contract stated that I would be getting $375 a week and all my food, housing, I had a room in the addition of their house, car, and phone bill would be paid for. Some relevant info about pay was that the other live-in nanny had all the same benefits but only $200. I had to get them to raise my pay because I wouldn't go if it was only $200. The contract also stated that the household chores, such as the boys' laundry, sweeping, vacuuming, cleaning various rooms in the house, and a few others, were completed by both nannies. There was a clause that said that if one nanny was doing more of the childcare, that the other nanny would take on more of the household chores, but not all of them. That clause is very important. That last relevant info of the contract was that any amends to the contract must be agreed to by both parties. This would take a new contract signed by all parties involved. That same section of the contract also states that the contract is still in effect for a month if either party terminates the contract, i.e., we each need to give a 1 month's notice of termination. So I arrived in Connecticut in mid-October. The first 2 months went well enough. I wasn't used to working full-time, but I managed. At around 2 weeks before Christmas, I started to interact with my aunt a lot more. Not knowing a lot about her, I was excited to get to know her. After a while, I started to notice she treated me like a kid. I was taken aback by this because I was taking care of her 4 kids, yet she treated me like one of them. I brushed it off for the most part. Then, about 2 days before I flew home for Christmas, she made a comment to the oldest. "Big boys don't cry, they work. Fix the problem, not cry about it." This really pissed me off because she was a child psychologist. A comment like that is one of the reasons I have trouble expressing my emotions. With that as her job, she was the last person I expected to make a comment like that. I left 2 days after to go home to Utah to spend Christmas with my family. Enter the first week of January, the week I got back from Utah. I come downstairs one morning to see a piece of paper that says OP's to-do list. Now, this to-do list had every single household chore that the contract states the live-in nannies have to do. Now, I don't like confrontation when I can't control most of the situation. So I call my mom and let her know what happened. She tells me to talk to my uncle and tell him that that's a violation of my contract. As a lawyer, my mom was surprised that he would make this list as it directly violated the contract. I go and talk to my uncle later that day and show him the list. He tried to argue that the household chores don't need to be split 50-50, citing the clause underneath. I then point out the final line of said clause, being that not all of them could fall upon one nanny. He then took the list, crossed off the line that said pack a snack for the boys for school, and said that the other nanny would do that. That was the easiest task of them all by far. At this point, there was nothing I could do. 2 weeks later, and I'm struggling to get all these chores done by the time I'm done working. My aunt and uncle have noticed this. To help me get better at getting them all done, they just give me reminders every so often on what needs to be done. This is making me more stressed than I already am. Now, after a week of this, the other nanny's contract is expiring. Instead of renewing, she leaves and goes to work for a different family about 30 minutes away. During this time, my aunt and uncle interview and hire a new nanny. The new nanny's waiting to get a visa to the US. It's a week before they would arrive in the US. During this week, I'm now tasked with 100% of the household chores. I'm working about 12-hour days from Monday to Saturday. I spend this week working my butt off to try and get all of the chores done and take care of the 4 kids. As to be expected, I fall behind. I can't complete their laundry list of items I should get done by the end of the day. I get those reminders of all the tasks I haven't done, needing to be done. That week feels like it took an eternity. By the end, I'm so stressed that I'm having panic attacks at the end of every day and crying myself to sleep almost every night. The start of the next week, the final week in January, the new nanny arrives. He's a super nice guy. He's able to get the hang of stuff very quickly. I start to feel a huge weight off my shoulders when he arrives. That week passes without much happening. I get into a groove and my stress levels are down. Then Sunday arrives. I'm about to go to bed after a long Zoom call with my girlfriend at the time. We'd been long distance since my move in May of 2021. When I get a text from my aunt asking me to come downstairs to talk to her and my uncle. I'm a little confused as to what it is they want to talk about, but I go downstairs and talk with them. They both explain that I'm not doing well enough for them to feel good about paying me my $375 a week pay. They told me that if the other nanny found out that I was getting paid more for doing what they felt was less work, it would be a difficult situation for them. They wanted to lower my pay to $200 a week that the other nanny was making. I'd be able to get back to my $375 a week by proving to them that I could do the work. As I said, I'm not a fan of confrontation when I can't control the situation. So I said okay and quickly ran upstairs and cried for a solid 30 minutes. Afterwards, I called my mom to explain what was going on. My mom told me that what they were doing was not okay by any means. In fact, it was quite illegal. She told me that I was going to need to stand up for myself and tell them no. I was so emotionally charged that I decided to wait until Monday to confront them about it. Monday, I was thankfully off. I took the day to prepare myself emotionally, as well as get a game plan for what to say. I waited till later that night to talk to them so the kids wouldn't overhear or distract me. I told them that cutting my pay down was illegal, that it could only be done if a new contract was drafted and signed and agreed to by all of us. Even if that was the case, which it wasn't, it would still take a month before coming into effect. I told them that I refused to sign another contract with that pay. I only took this job because of the higher pay. I gave them the ultimatum that they either pay me my full wage moving forward, or this was my 1 month's notice. They both whispered to each other for what felt like an eternity, turned to me and said, "I guess it's your 1 month notice then." I told them okay, and that they still had to pay me my $375 a week for the remainder of the month. They looked at each other and my uncle said that they would go week by week to see if I had earned the $375 that week. I told them that was okay, but if they decided that I hadn't earned the $375 and they paid me the $200, I would leave it the next Monday, as that would be a violation of the contract, and I would therefore consider the contract null and void and leave. My uncle backtracked real quickly saying, "Well, OP, I don't think that's the best decision for you to make," and I can't make this next part up. They say, "I think it's more about the spirit of the contract than the letter." My uncle, the lawyer, said that, "Jim, I had hold in my laughter." I started to walk upstairs and responded as I walked away, "I wonder how that would hold up in court. Food for thought." As I walked into my room, I felt so powerful and had the biggest grin on my face. That night, I booked flights for a month in advance and paid for the option to change the flight date without paying a fee so that I could change my flights and leave if my pay was docked. For 2 weeks, I felt so good. I had a wave of relief that felt like all that weight I'd been carrying was gone. The second to last week of my stay was about halfway through when my aunt and uncle used their kids to try to manipulate me into staying. The kids would say things like, "OP, why are you leaving? Mommy and Daddy told us that it's because you hate us. You don't hate us, do you?" Among others. Then came Friday, the day I get paid. I wake up to see that I only had $200 deposited into my bank. I was supposed to work that day and the next. I wasn't supposed to start till 1 p.m. that day. I texted my aunt, who handled my pay, and told her that $175 was missing for my pay this week. She told me that I hadn't earned my full wage this week. I told her, okay, guess I won't work for the rest of this week. She then came and banged on my bedroom door demanding to come in. I told her she could come in. She opened the door and began to yell at me that I had to work. I was on the schedule. Who was going to take the kids to their swimming lessons today? I said, I don't know, that's not my issue. She got super red and went off on me saying, yes it is, you're on the schedule for today, it's your responsibility. To which I calmly replied, well, if you pay me the other $175 you owe me, then I'll gladly do that, but since I haven't earned it, then why should I keep working? You violated the contract. If you don't pay me, then I won't work. Simple as that. Also, if you don't want to pay me my legal contractual wage, then I'll also move my flight to Monday. She gave me a look that I can only describe as the look of death and said, you're right, you haven't earned it. It's more about the spirit of the contract than the letter anyways. Please, we're family. Why can't you just help us out? All I said was, it's not my problem if you don't pay me. I could very easily sue both of you for contract violation and win. But you're right, you're family, so I won't. I should help family, right? She just stormed off. I ignored all the texts and calls from my aunt and uncle about me needing to do this or me needing to do that. I waited till the end of the day to see if I got that $175 I was owed. I wasn't surprised when it didn't show up. The next morning I called and got my flights changed to that following Monday. I screenshotted the flight confirmation and sent it to the both of them to show I was actually leaving. I again ignored all the calls and texts about you need to do this or asking me to reconsider. I spent that day and the next packing up everything I had. Sunday evening, I got a text to the group chat with my aunt, my uncle, and the other nanny with that week's schedule. It had me working Monday to Friday. My aunt and uncle had to go into the office on Mondays early in the morning. I wasn't supposed to work till that afternoon. On that Monday morning, after they left for work and the kids were at school or out with the other nanny, I left a note on the counter for the other nanny and my aunt and uncle. It was just a goodbye, nothing fancy. I got in an Uber and got on my plane home at noon. When I landed in Utah and turned off airplane mode, my phone blew up with texts and missed calls from my aunt and uncle asking where I was supposed to be working, etc. I sent one text to them saying, I left a note. I told you I was leaving today. Just because I'm on the schedule doesn't mean I have to work. Good luck finding a new nanny. And then proceeded to block them and the other nanny. When I got back to my house, my mom and dad told me about all these things my aunt and uncle said I did. I told them I know and showed them all the texts and call logs. My dad then called my uncle and gave him an earful about disrespecting me and how if he were in my shoes, he would have sued you both, no questions asked, and hung up. It's been 4 months since then, and my aunt and uncle have been all but cut out of all of my dad's side of the family once they tried to use them to get at me and my parents. I now am working full-time at a much better job and learned how to stand up to unreasonable bosses. So I think it's pretty clear to me that not only were they trying to take advantage of OP here, it seems to me like they were shuffling through nannies until they could just get some people working for practical, well, let's just say peanuts for them, trying to make you work harder for less, and especially pulling all the disgusting underhanded "we're family" stuff. OP was more than good to stand their ground and get out of there ASAP. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another entitled parent story that was crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, click on the right. That said though, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.